All right, well, welcome everybody to the November 2021 Barrier Busters meeting. Thanks all for attending. Thanks for all the comments of what you're thankful in the chat. This is great. I am going to be going to somebody's house to steal some key lime pie shortly. So starting us off with Housing Access of Washington County will be providing one of their monthly updates. Kara, are you out there?
I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
All right. Yep.
Great. Hi, everyone. Great to see everyone again, as usual. I wanted to talk about hotel stays through Hawk, as that's been something that has come up a lot, I think, recently. So I'm going to try to talk through it as briefly as I can while still being thorough about what the process is. So Hawk does have a hotel program. Specifically, it's for families that have minor children. And so for a family to be eligible for a hotel stay through us, they would have to meet the HUD criteria for homelessness and go through our coordinated entry process, which includes completing an assessment with us. And then we make many efforts to try to divert them from homelessness or from shelter to begin with, just because of the limited amount of resources for homelessness. So, you know, the amount of persons that we're able to put in hotels at one time is limited. And for single adults, we're always referring them over to the Wellness Center, as they work with single adults over there, and Hawk works with families. Does anybody have any questions on this? No? Okay, well, hopefully I did an okay job of explaining it. So yeah, we don't have hotel stays that we can give to everyone. We wish that we did, but we just are limited in what we're able to do with hotel stays. And I know that that's really tough because there are a lot of people experiencing homelessness right now. Our numbers have essentially doubled since last year. So it definitely is a struggle. But, you know, as always, if you have any questions or concerns about anything housing related, Hawk concerns, please always know that you can come to me. You can email me, call me, text me, whatever works best for you. I'm always available, and I'm happy to answer questions.
Kara, I've got one question, I guess. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. I do have a question just related to the shelters. Is there anything that's changed? Like, is capacity different? Are there requirements for vaccination or like anything like that?
Yeah, so I don't believe that any of the shelters have a requirement for vaccination, although I could be wrong about that, so don't quote me on that, but I haven't heard that. It's not something I've heard. There has been something that has changed. One of our family shelters closed in May of this year, which was Staples Family Center. So we no longer have that shelter as an option for families. And so that's reduced the amount of persons that we're able to send, you know, to regular family shelter space. In place of Staples Family Center, we did develop this hotel system, but we're limited again in the amount of families we can put in at one time. Somebody else asked a question: if folks call us with families and cars and can't get through to Hawk, what are other options? I guess, you know, when you say they can't get through, are you meaning like they can't get through to our phone line, or they're not able to get any direct assistance from us because we don't have anything immediately available? I think like the hard reality is that there are many times where we do not have anything immediately available for a family. And what I can tell you is that it is psychologically torture for our staff. We get verbally accosted by people on a regular basis. That's what I really wanted the group to know, that it is really challenging. I'm going to try not to cry for a second because it's been really hard for our intake staff. Like sometimes some of the things that are said, the names that they get called when we can't help people. It's not everyone, of course. We know that there are a lot of people that really truly understand that we're limited, but it can be awful sometimes and is really psychological torture for staff, because we are in a mindset that we want to help everyone. We want to have the ability to be able to provide resources and assistance for everyone. But the reality, and it's something that's much higher than Hawk, is that there just are very limited resources. So while we try our best to connect folks with resources, the reality is that sometimes we're not able to immediately. We do our best to connect them with other services. Like we have a housing navigator on staff, we have shelter diversion services. We can sometimes help with application fees, we can pay, help with security deposits. So we try to get creative in finding other safe alternatives when there isn't shelter available. I know someone saying that you leave messages and no one calls you back. That, you know me, you can call me directly if you have questions about Hawk, and that goes for anybody in this barrier buster meeting. For clients, I don't really have the capacity for everyone to call me directly. Like I can't be the intake line, unfortunately. I wish I could, but if you all have questions, please feel free to reach out. What I can tell you for clients is that our call volume has tripled, sometimes quadrupled from what it was last year, and we were not given additional funding to increase our staffing for our phone line. So it's been incredibly challenging, and we do our best to get back to people as quickly as we can, and we do return all calls, but sometimes it's not always immediate. Don't feel bad calling me. I am busy, as I'm sure everybody else here is, right? Like we're all busy right now. So you're not bothering me. It's no biggie. So, and thank you for the kind words from folks too. I'm going to be sure to pass those along to our staff, because I know that they'll like hearing that there's, supportive words of encouragement for them. Are there any other questions? Moon, did you have a question, or did I answer it already?
I think you already answered it. I would just like to note that, in addition to between like Hawk and SOS, the two agencies have processed over like 1,000 applications for SARA assistance in this last year, in addition to the regular services that you provide. So I just find that phenomenal, and I'm really empathic to kind of all the stressors that your staff is going through, because it's not an easy job at the best of the time. So anyways, just really appreciate you and the rest of the Hawk team. Oh wait, no, there was a question. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
Has there been, I'm just curious. I know with the hotel with Staples closing and with the reliance on hotels. I know that there was kind of like a little bit of a log jam for a while, just because of football season and all the football parents like eating up the hotel rooms. Is that still a reality, or is that easing up yet?
Yeah, that's eased up a lot. We actually, I believe that we have a contract now with one of the hotels in the area. That's
Okay.
my understanding. And so that started maybe a week ago. So that was a huge problem for a while, is that we just couldn't find a hotel to work with us. So we had clients spread out at like 4 different hotels throughout, Belleville, Washtenaw County. But now it seems like things are really moving into place, and we finally have a contract with a local hotel, which is really great. So I think we're on the right track. And beyond that, also, just so everyone's aware now, survivors are also coming through coordinated entry, which is also creating an increased demand for homeless resources as well. So, and we don't have any additional resources than what we had prior. At any given time, there are 7 families housed in hotels through Hawk. And thank you everyone again for your kind words. I really appreciate it. I'm gonna try not to cry at some of your messages. You all are very nice. Thank you.
All right, appreciate you, Kara.
Thanks,
all right,
everyone.
up next, we've got Amanda Bisoli over at Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Washtenaw County.
Hi, everyone. I'd like to just start off by thanking you for inviting us today, and also thanking Kara for what you shared. I definitely really empathize with some of the challenges that you shared your staff is facing. And I'm excited to talk a little bit about Big Brothers Big Sisters and some of the things that we have going on over here at our agency. Certainly have had some similar challenges, but are excited to be talking about some new programming that we are developing with some local schools. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen if that's okay. And then be able to share a little bit of my presentation with y'all. Okay. So I'd like to just start off by saying I know a lot of folks in the community are familiar with the Big Brothers Big Sisters program. So some of the information might be a refresher for some of y'all, and some of it will be focused on, like I mentioned, some of the new programming that we have going on. So again, thank you for allowing us to come and chat about our program. We're really excited to be providing some one-on-one support to young folks in the community. And I'm going to start off by just talking really generally about Big Brothers Big Sisters. So we're a community of folks who believe that youth should have the support needed to achieve their full potential. We really believe that the youth in our community already have the potential in them, but with our community of staff, board, donors, families, and volunteers, we're really just trying to clear the path to help them achieve that potential. I'm going to next talk a little bit about our inclusivity statement. So here at Big Brothers Big Sisters, we believe in the dignity and worth of all individuals. We believe that each young person deserves unconditional support and acceptance, no matter of their race, religion, gender, or sexual orientation. And we encourage any and all interested young people, potential mentors, to inquire to learn more about being in a supportive developmental relationship. And so when we're sharing this information with folks, we really just ask for them to reflect on their own values to make sure that this feels like a right fit for them. We do work with a really wide range of folks in the community, as I'm sure y'all are aware of. This includes people who identify as LGBTQ, folks from different races, ethnicities, religious backgrounds, and we do take preferences into consideration when matching people, but we want to also let folks know that we don't tolerate prejudice or bias in our program. So next, I'm going to talk a little bit about what makes Big Brothers Big Sisters unique from other youth-serving organizations. Really, it's the one-on-one mentoring relationship and the one-year match commitment. I'm going to talk a little bit about our school-based program that we're starting with Estabrook Elementary. And as you can see on the screen, in order to achieve that one-year match, we do have a summer commitment of volunteers and their mentees getting together occasionally throughout the summer by attending sponsored events. So we also are unique in the fact that we go through a really intentional matching process that's based on common goals, interests, motivation, and expectations. Sometimes this looks like maybe families sharing that they want their young person to have academic support. And sometimes it can be little things like just made a match with a big and a little who both really loved cats. And so they were looking to do some volunteer work together, potentially at the Cat Cafe or doing the reading program through the Humane Society. So sometimes it is those family inputs, but we really do take the youth voice into consideration. Just as an organization that's been around for over 100 years, we really know that that impact and growth happens when they have been in that relationship for at least 1 year. So we do take that very seriously and ask that all folks can reflect on if that's something that they're able to commit to. And then lastly on the screen, I'm going to talk more about this in a little bit, but we do have professional staff at our agency called mentoring specialists. They're really, case managers who are working individually with those matches to make sure that they're providing support, coaching, troubleshooting, and also helping celebrate. When that match I shared earlier gets to go out and volunteer at the Humane Society, we want to make sure that we're supporting and encouraging them. So I'm going to talk a little bit next about our mentoring model. Most folks are probably really familiar with our community-based mentoring model. And in that program, folks are doing things like going to the Humane Society, or I know I've got a lot of matches who are looking forward to attending the tree lighting ceremony, doing things like Ipsy Glow. So really encouraging them to get out and about in the community. Now, what's different about our site-based mentoring model is that all the activities in the academic year will take place at Estabrook Elementary during the lunch period. And this is a once-a-week commitment, and it's kind of a semi-structured curriculum that we're planning. We do promote REACH activities. As you can see on the screen, they stand for recreational, education, arts, culture, community service, and health and wellness. And we're really excited. We've got the gym reserved, so we're really excited to be thinking of all the potentials that we can be doing for activity planning and curriculum in that nice big space that Estabrook is providing for us. One of the other models that we use that some folks might be familiar with is we work with the Search Institute and utilize their developmental relationship framework. And this is a framework that's really great for mentoring relationships, but can also be expanded to various relationships that adults have with youth in the community, such as teachers, coaches, or even parents. And some of the elements of this include expressing care, challenging growth, providing support, sharing power, and expanding possibilities. We do have some examples of activities on our website that we encourage folks to check out if you're interested in learning more about developmental relationships. But throughout this framework, we are really aiming to support positive youth development, confidence, and competence. All right, so next I'm going to talk specifically about who are the littles that we're recruiting for our Lunch Buddies program. So as I mentioned, this is a program that's in partnership with Estabrook Elementary, and we're currently working with the school social worker and staff over there to enroll 2nd to 4th graders. So most of the folks, or all the folks in that program, will be students at Estabrook Elementary, and we know that they'll have a variety of backgrounds, needs, and interests. And because of this, we really encourage staff, families, and volunteers to lean into these relationships with unconditional positive support, which means being there for the good times and the challenging times. I think we covered a lot of this already, but just to give you a timeline, we're working with the school to do some enrollment. We're currently recruiting volunteers. I would say one of our biggest needs right now is for about 15 to 20 additional volunteers who have the time to come and volunteer that once a week for an hour. And I'll share, when I was an intern with Big Brothers Big Sisters about 10 years ago, I had the great opportunity to have a little brother in the Lunch Buddies program. And I'll tell you, that was some of the best times that I got to have as an adult, because Patrick and I had a lot of interests in common. One of them was Legos. So I got to take a break from my stressful, college life, internship, and family, and go have recess with a little. And in addition to playing Legos, we made up a game called Zombie Tag, where if you got tagged, you'd have to chase someone like a zombie. And so it was honestly a program that I feel I benefited a lot from, having that opportunity to have some recreation and respite during my week. And for timing, we're looking at really getting curriculum going in January. We'll have some matches in place by the end of this year, but are really gearing up to hit the ground running in January. And like I mentioned, this is going to be a semi-structured program, so you'll have time. One of my favorite things Patrick and I got to do was eat lunch together. And sometimes, I would bring my own PB&J, and we'd sit and eat together. Sometimes I'd get to bring him food in, but really just having that time to connect and chat. And then after lunch, there'll be some suggested structured activities. Like I mentioned previously, we're working really closely with the school social worker and the staff and getting input on what their students like. So we've heard things like yoga and mindfulness, gaga ball. So we're really looking to have some suggested activities that matches can do together, but also have just some free time in order to allow for the youth to have some voice and choice and how they're spending their time. So I'm going to talk next a little bit about some of those volunteers that we're looking for. So our volunteers are categorized as friends, role models, supporters, and advocates. We really are looking for volunteers who are coachable and willing to take feedback and see themselves as a learner. I would have to say that with my little brother, I learned not only a lot of fun things about Ninjago Legos, but just a wide variety of things, you know, the importance of play. He also taught me a lot of, he was studying math, and believe it or not, he taught me a lot of tricks that I didn't know about multiplication tables. So Patrick was able to share with me a lot of really great things. So we want, you know, volunteers to know that they're going to be learning and growing right along with their little. Willing to center youth, so giving them, again, voice and choice in some of that activity planning. Someone who is able to reflect and grow potentially on their own implicit bias. We know that folks aren't perfect, but we're asking, you know, again, for them to be willing to learn and grow. And most importantly, our bigs are volunteers and folks in the community who are passionate about helping young folks achieve their full potential. We also do provide some initial training with our volunteers, as well as ongoing training. And as far as eligibility, we're looking for folks who are 18 and above and able to pass some background checks. I'm going to briefly just talk about the enrollment process to become a big. So we do have an sign up on our website where folks can go and sign up for an info session where they will become orientated to the program. Once they attend that info session, there's an application and background check process. And then we do move forward with scheduling an interview, completing an assessment, and assigning them 2 to 3 hours of training on our learning platform. And then from there, we review their file to make sure that they're suitable and eligible for the program. And if not, potentially refer them to another agency that is better suited for them. So our families, right now we're working pretty closely with the school to get them enrolled, like I previously mentioned. We are having them do a phone orientation process. And similar to the volunteers, they go through an application, interview, and assessment. We do have a lot of training available, not only for our volunteers, but for our parents. Our national agency recently released training about your child's body safety for parents so that they can be active partners in child safety. And then we always review everyone's file and potentially make additional references to other agencies if the family could benefit from that. And for our wait list for the school-based program, we're really hoping to be able to match all the youth that inquire. So we're really looking to get about 15, 20 extra volunteers. Folks might be really familiar, unfortunately, with our community-based wait list. So we're really hoping to be able to open up some volunteer opportunities for folks who might not be able to commit to that community-based program, which is a little bit less structured. I'm really hoping to eliminate some of the wait time for youth enrolling through that school-based program. But always just want to be open and transparent that with our community-based program, we do see a wait list. Right now, we are about 3 to 6 months for little sisters, and unfortunately, a year or more for little brothers who are hoping to get matched with a big brother. So this will be my shameless plug as well for looking for community-based mentors, particularly men, and in addition to that, particularly men of color. So in addition to those school-based volunteers, we are always looking for big brothers to match with the young men on our wait list for community-based program. Next, I want to briefly touch on some of the program policies that we have in place to help ensure child safety. So in our site-based program, all the outings will be sponsored and take place either at the school, or the summer activities will be sponsored by Big Brothers Big Sisters. In this program, there's no requirement for the volunteer to ever transport the little. So that's sometimes a barrier for folks becoming involved in the community-based program. So by offering this volunteer opportunity, we're hoping to eliminate some barriers for folks, such as that transportation of littles. In this program, in addition to not transporting littles, there will be no outings that take place, in the volunteer's home or in the community, but really exclusively those structured and supervised programs. Let's see. We do have, I'm going to talk briefly about match support more in a moment. And again, I just want to reiterate that we do ask for the 1-year commitment, and that's a calendar year for the school-based program, not an academic year, because we know that the young folks in the community really benefit from that consistency. All right, so next I'm going to go into a little bit more detail of what match support looks like. So match support is, again, when one of our mentoring specialists or case managers is having in-person or phone conversations with bigs, littles, and families. And the main goal of this is to maintain child safety by checking in on how the relationship is progressing, potentially providing activity ideas. We're working with some matches right now to do some what we call messy science activities for some of our littles who really like to get hands-on and do things like making slime and volcanoes and experiments. So that's one of my favorite things that I get to do. Also providing feedback on how the relationship is developing. Sometimes volunteers might ask, I think my little likes me. What did they say? Are they having fun? And so being able to provide that feedback, also providing resources, and sometimes this looks like connecting families with agencies such as HAWK or some of the other agencies that are represented on this phone call. Just being supportive. I like to think of our case managers as almost mentors to the bigs. So they're providing a lot of coaching, support, and really helping, to problem solve if there's any need for that, and then just providing a personal connection to Big Brothers Big Sisters. In addition to those monthly phone calls, we do have some ongoing trainings, like I mentioned earlier. We call these Big Success. And so we partner with different agencies in the community. Red Cross, NAMI are some of the examples we've done. We recently participated and offered training through NAMI on reducing stigma around mental health. We'll also, sometimes create our own trainings and just provide space for mentors to kind of share and connect what they're seeing on the ground. We typically invite parents to these. And right now, most of these are happening virtually. And then another activity that we host is called team building. And so this is a structured activity that helps to strengthen their relationship through that developmental relationship model. And we get to do a lot of really fun activities. I don't know if anyone's familiar with like a spaghetti marshmallow tower, but that's one of my favorite activities that we do during that event. So next I want to just talk a little bit about what some of the curriculum focuses will be on the Lunch Buddies program. So we hope to have this be semi-structured. So we want to have that free playtime, that important recreational space, but we really want to be able to provide support for that relationship development, executive functioning, social emotional learning, grounding, and mindfulness. And we're really excited. We'll be able to invite some of our school-based folks to attend some of our larger Big Brothers Big Sisters events, such as our annual picnic or some of our game nights. And I'll say that that was some of my most favorite activities that we got to participate in this summer. We were over at Riverside Park quite often playing kickball and just a variety of really fun activities. So as I kind of near the end of the presentation here, just want to highlight some of the outcomes that we see across the board for youth that participate in one-on-one mentoring. We see outcomes such as increased confidence. Youth are more likely to steer clear of drugs and alcohol, do better in school, have better social relationships, and feel better about themselves. But just really overall, we see youth making more positive decisions, having greater confidence, and just increase in quality of life in general. Since child safety is such an important part of our program, we always talk about match closure. And I know that might sound funny to talk about before they've even been matched, but we always want to, as you can see on the screen, really adhere to that first do no harm. So it can be difficult when, I know it was difficult for me and Patrick when we had to say goodbye to each other at the end of our time together. But we really try to make sure that even, you know, if a match does have to end prematurely, if a little moves out of the district or something happens, that we handle that match closure with care. We know that surveys and research shows that littles and bigs just want the opportunity to say goodbye and have healthy closure. And when we do have that healthy closure, it really solidifies the progress that you've made instead of leaving things on a bad note. And one of the things that I like to say is that that match closure teaches youth how to say goodbye to folks. They're gonna have friends that move. They're, you know, unfortunately, you know, gonna experience that in life. And so we really want for them to experience that in a healthy way. So as I near the end of this presentation, just want to talk about ways to support Big Brothers Big Sisters. I would say, again, shameless plug, our biggest need is always for volunteers, especially men. Particularly right now, we are looking for folks that have, you know, an hour around lunchtime to come hang out once a week and have fun at Estabrook Elementary. But if, you know, folks aren't able to do that, there's a variety of other ways to support Big Brothers Big Sisters, you know, various social media fundraisers. We're part of Kroger and Amazon Smile, and really just spreading the word. It's really interesting to me how much recruitment, marketing, and different strategies that we use to try and recruit folks for the program, when we know that folks say word of mouth is how they hear about the program. You know, they had a friend who was a big, or maybe a child has a friend who's in the program. And so word of mouth is the most invaluable way for us to bring folks to our organization. So what I would encourage y'all do is to open up a tab on your screen here and check out our Facebook page and share our posts. Become friends with us, engage with us on social media, and really help us to use that word of mouth, because we know that that is the strongest way that we get volunteers. In fact, about 70% of our volunteers inquire because they've been referred by a friend. I'd just like to end by saying thank you so much for allowing me to come and talk about this new exciting program that we have with Estabrook Elementary. As someone who had, you know, a little in a school-based program, again, I know it can be really beneficial, not only for the littles, but for the volunteers. And so If anyone has any questions, feel free to, I guess, drop them in the chat or unmute yourself. And just thank you again for allowing for me to come today.
So any questions, folks? All right, well, Amanda, thank you so much for your presentation. I particularly really loved kind of your personal experience in working with Patrick. That's very evocative, so thank you. Next up, we have Gail Wolkoff with Educate Youth to provide an overview of the resources and the program overview.
Good afternoon. Thank you for this. This is amazing. Let's see how I can do this. Can you all see that? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Can you see the screen? Educate You. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm Gail Wolkoff. I'm from Educate Youth. We are a nonprofit at 104 South Huron. We are right around the corner from Big Brothers Big Sisters. We're directly across the street from SOS. And as I also like to say, we are, if you go in Puffer Red's front door and straight out their back door, you go into our parking lot. So to get you triangulated to exactly where we're located, we're in an old house, which is called the Clubhouse. Educate Youth started in, I have a PowerPoint. I realize that everybody can read. It just makes people, nervous. I mean, I don't like when people read to me, but just to sort of have it so I can know where I'm going. We started in 2011. And 2010, up until that point, from 1985 to 2010, I was an educator. So I'm an educator, as I like to say, by trade, by every cell of my body. I believe that education is the most important thing in all of our lives, and it needs to be easily accessed by all, not just some. Our pilot program was out of the Whitaker Library. We did it for a summer. We learned that middle school students actually wanted academic support. From there, we expanded into a year-round program. Our program dedicated to make a change, which was an L3C. Those of you that are familiar with L3Cs versus nonprofits, were started at the same time that the Willow Run schools and the Ipsy schools merged. At that time, there was a lot going on. And that's when we, being dedicated to make a change, really started working with youth. And then in 2017, we took all of our educational programming and moved it into Educate Youth. Our mission is right there. High school diploma, 2 years beyond it. If we know anything about high school graduation, Michigan has really low graduation rates, somewhere between 82 to 84%. Ypsilanti has low graduation rates, somewhere between 47 and 67%, depending on what demographics and how you're dividing the people or looking at the people. So graduation rates have a lot to be desired, let's just say. The other part is having a 2-year plan. Everything we work with, you have a plan. So it's working on helping students learn, move forward with executive functioning plans. Why we exist. If we're all in this meeting, we are well aware of ACEs, we're well aware of ALICE, we're well aware of the demographics that I have shown on this, of students that are in most need with academic support versus students with the highest amount of educational support. With this said, Educate Youth, pre-going back to school from the lockdown, primary focused upon students with the 48197, 48198 zip code. But as we heard in the very beginning with Hawk and homelessness, many of those students have different zip codes. So we are not holding tight to those zip codes. With that said, we know that a number of the surrounding communities have way more access to educational, academic, artistic support than 48197. So that is still our primary focus. This is just a lovely quote that we keep in mind, and the fact that keeps us all honest. So we believe in academic support. We believe in graduation from high school. We believe in graduation from high school with your high school diploma. We also believe that curriculum comes in many different ways. I'm specifically now going to be talking about a number or in the Ann Arbor area. All of the students are, as I mentioned, the 48197, 48198 zip code, but the students go to a myriad of different schools. They're in Ann Arbor, they go to Milan, they go to Belleville, they go to the consortium schools, they go to private schools, so they really go all over the place. Our curriculum is academic based. We also have moved in the arts, music, visual arts, writing, working with community ties. Those are things that will develop the mind, develop the critical thinking skills. We also give basic meals, or excuse me, basic needs every day. The students have food, they have transportation, they have school supplies. We're just now moving into winter season, so kids have coats, kids have hats, kids have gloves. We provide what students need, because one of the things we focus on is filling in all of the little or big holes that might prevent somebody from going to school. If you don't have a toothbrush and you can't brush your teeth, if you don't have a winter coat, if you don't have food, then we try to move around all of those barriers. And we also, the clubhouse is also known as a safer place. So students can come for safety. We have many different students from many different identified groups or gangs or cliques, and they all know that within the clubhouse, it's safe. It's a safer place. Who we serve. We've had 144 students. We're at Educate Youth is at 100% graduation rate from the students that we have. We've been around long enough that we see our students going to college. This 2022 academic year will be the first 2 college graduates, one from Wayne State and one from EMU, that worked in our programming. We're getting more students going into colleges and trade schools. When our students graduate high school, the students receive, if they identify Black, they receive Danger Educated Black Woman or Danger Educated Black Man. If they do not identify Black, then we have different t-shirts for those students. This is the front of our t-shirts. So this is sort of just to give you an idea. The challenges that the students face every day, that of the students who come to the clubhouse, is COVID. We are through the first marking period of the school year, or of this school year. Don't even know how to identify it. We have all are feeling the effects of having to wake up every day and get dressed and go out and be social, and having to focus and carry on a full day, how different it is from a year ago. The trauma that's related to that, also the trauma that is related to all of the things that happened during and into the point of the pandemic that we are in now, not to mention what happens in these students' lives every day. The effects of racism, institutionalized, longitudinal racism, poverty, and undereducation. Our accomplishments. You might have seen this mural going up in Ypsilanti on South Washington at Ipsy Glow, but the artist Curtis Wallace, who works with our students and has been doing art with us, hired 5 teens. So the hexagons that are on the outside or on the far side of the rainbow were put together by teens. So this is some of them outside working on that. We also have a music program, so students can learn how to play instruments, and then receive instruments, and they get private lessons, weekly private lessons from musicians that either Zoom in or visit. They also, in 11th grade, they become mentors. They get referrals, recommendations. We seem to have benchmark periods of 2 weeks. Students discover if they like the after-school program, or after-school program is an everyday program. After 3 months, they start seeing the successes and how this fits into their lives. Our future, we ultimately would love to find a larger space, just so you know where we're going long-term, to be able to reach more students. Even though we love the clubhouse, we're limited by size. Mentors, tutors, with COVID happening and coming back and being in the middle of a pandemic, I'm sure we have all learned and discovered that students need more, having more face time and attention. So we could definitely use more support people. Can I let people in, or is somebody else getting this end of it?
Hi, Gail. I am letting people in, so you
Okay.
don't worry about that.
Okay, perfect. I'm just seeing that and I'm like, am I,
Nope,
starting
you're
to
doing
get
fine.
paranoid. Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. Social workers, we have positions, so we have paid positions. So if you know anybody here who's listening or knows of people that love teenagers, or are teenage focused, with or without the social work paperwork, is definitely looking for employees. School supplies, our theory is if you're doing school, you are always needing school supplies. And clothing, even though we don't have a clothing bank per se, when students need something, we always have something here. And lastly, at this point in time, Educate Youth has an amazing board. They understand that we're small, we're grassroots, and that as the students' needs change, Educate Youth needs to change with the students in order to be helpful to them. We provide, as I mentioned before, we provide transportation because I'm a firm believer that it's a really quiet place if students can't get someplace. So we have what I jokingly call the Flexmobile, where we pick up students or we drive students home. We have food, we have just connecting out. More and more, we don't have any quote unquote direct support to parents, but given that I drive all students home and now I'm picking them up quite often, parents know me and parents know who I am. So I have the ability to do that 1 or 2 layers out for support in different ways and means. So in that way. Questions? I realize I flew through there. Any questions about us? As I said, I'm honored to be here. I've heard a lot of about Barrier Busters. I know that I've connected a lot of people to you all, or to indirectly to people, but I've never officially, I know when you're virtual with people, is it really official? Talked with you all. So I really appreciate having the opportunity to be here. And as I mentioned, we're at 104 South Huron. Students start coming in. I leave in about 4 minutes to start picking up students. But by 4 o'clock, we are back and we're here until 6:30 every day. If you're ever in the neighborhood, please knock on the door and come in and visit and see like amazing work that students are doing after school.
Thanks so much, Gail. Really appreciate the overview on Educate Youth.
Thank you very much.
All right, so then wrapping up, we're going to be just looking at the Barrier Busters current funding situation, which is unfortunately super simple. We are still currently out of funding. We have put in a request for additional funds to some various municipalities and foundations. Haven't heard anything back. We will obviously inform the network via the email group if something does occur. Otherwise, we will be expecting our flexible general funds to be available again first quarter 2022. Usually each year we try to allocate $25,000 for each quarter. We'll also be having a good chunk, several tens of thousands of dollars with our Immigration Assistance Fund that will also be available January 1st. And that's about it. And yes, again, thanks for helping for all of the agencies, helping over 800 households this year stay safe in their homes. Any questions in regards to the funding update? Okay, well, hearing none, thanks everyone for attending and look forward to seeing you all in December.
Thank you.